Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Payano, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 304 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined, as ever, by the former heavyweight world title challenger, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, my man. How are you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. Always good. So, same as ever, we're going to dive straight into the review part. A lot to preview and a little bit to review as well. So let's dive straight in. At the Falls Park in Belfast, Northern Ireland. This one took place last Friday, August 6th. Mykal Conlan topped the bill. He's now 16-0, a unanimous decision over 12 against former world champion TJ Doheny, who's now 22-3. Doheny was down in the fifth round from a body shot. It was for the WBA interim world featherweight title. I mean, that is probably the only way I can see Mykal Conlan kind of getting his hands on a version of a world title if he gets upgraded or something. But that's my opinion there. It was a decent fight. I expected it to go that way. I thought that he'd win on points. I think that Doheny is a very, very tough guy. I was quite shocked to see him go down in that fifth round, but it was a great body shot from Conlan. Give him credit for that one. But it was what it was. Like I say, it was an all-Irish fight. It was a big fight in Ireland, a good crowd as well. I mean, the atmosphere looked unbelievable, and I was watching it on TV. Like, it looked amazing. Another step in the right direction for Conlan. Probably the best win of his career, has to be by far, I should say. But it was what it was. I think Doheny's not really the same fighter since losing in that absolute war with Daniel Roman, and since then he hasn't quite looked himself. He's coming off now 2 losses in a row, so we shall see what happens for him. But onwards and upwards for Mr. Mykal Conlan. On the undercard, Lee McGregor, now 11-0, a KO in round 4 against the previously undefeated 32-0 Vincent Legrand. Like I said, it was for the EBU European bantamweight title. McGregor himself down in the second round and Legrand down in round 4. It wasn't the way we thought it would go. McGregor was just struggling in that first round. He couldn't work out the southpaw stance of Legrand. He was down in the second round, like I say. It wasn't a heavy knockdown. I was just bamboozled like everyone else by what I was watching. McGregor seemed to be getting hit a lot in the fight. Which isn't really like him. And yeah, he was just struggling with that southpaw stance, I think. He came out in the third round and he had a better round, but it wasn't all McGregor. And then, the stoppage came, like I say, in the fourth round. It kind of came out of nowhere, to be honest with you. The body shot didn't even look like a big shot. Legrand went down, he spat out the gum shield and allowed himself to be counted out. He got straight back up at the count of about 10.5, and the commentator said, he hadn't given any rounds to McGregor at the point of the stoppage. So, like I said, it was a bizarre performance from McGregor. After coming off that first round knockout over Karim Guerfi, where he looked $1 million, he looked $1 trillion, and then he goes into this one. I mean, the guy was 32-0. We analysed his record. It was a bit inflated, and I didn't expect him to be going down like that. I mean, it was a weird performance. Elsewhere on the card, we should mention it was a really good fight actually between Tyrone Mckenna and Jose Felix. Mckenna now 22-2 with a draw, unanimous decision over 10 against Jose Felix, now 39-5 with a draw. It was for the vacant WBO Intercontinental Super Lightweight title. Tyrone Mckenna always in a tough fight, never makes it easy for himself. He's got the reach and the height and stuff like that, usually over his opponents, but he doesn't use it. He decides to have a war. A good win as well for Sean McComb. He battled back. He came back obviously after quitting, let's be honest, in his last fight against Gavin Gwynn. He's now 12-1, a points win over 8 against the teak-tough Argentinian Vicente Martin Rodriguez, 39-7 now with a draw. I think he's Argentinian. Moving out now, though, to the Matchroom HQ Garden in Brentwood, Essex, United Kingdom. Over here, let's start with the undercard. Going to start here with the women's fight that opened the card. We saw Ebony Bridges move to 6-1, a TKO in round 3 against Beck Connolly, who's now 3-10. Connolly down just the once in that third round. When you look at it on paper, it looks like a decent win. I mean, I didn't expect Bridges to knock Connolly out. Connolly had only been stopped twice in those 9 losses. Once to Terry Harper, who's a undefeated world champion. Once to Natasha Jonas, who can bang, who arguably should be a world champion. Ebony Bridges, she's not really proven, to be honest with you. I don't really believe in her power too much. She had 2 knockouts in 5 wins. One was to a girl who'd never ever fought, and she boxed her on her debut and got knocked out. You don't know how good or bad she is. And the other girl that she knocked out, I think, had 12 losses and had been knocked out 6 times. So I didn't think that she'd be able to stop Beck Connolly, but she did. So I take my hat off to that. I feel like Bridges picked her shots really well against Connolly, who, let's not lie here. I mean, she's a journeywoman, but being honest, and this is the thing that I don't think everyone understands, they pulled, Beck Connolly down from featherweight to bantamweight. She'd never weighed close to bantamweight in her life. She'd lost about 5 or 6 pounds for this fight here, which I felt was quite ridiculous, especially when there's no title on the line, and it probably impacted her punch resistance. But like I say, on paper, a decent win for Bridges. Still not convinced that she's like a world beater or anything like that. I really want to see Rachel Ball back in the mix. What is going on with her? Someone inform me. Let's move on now to the Johnny Fisher fight. Johnny Fisher now, what's his record now? 3-0. A TKO in round 2 against Danny Whitaker, who's now 4-4. Whitaker down twice in that second round. Quite brutal, to be honest, from Johnny Fisher. I said that Whitaker was down twice. I think he was down 3 times. Whitaker, gutsy, game, brave, but I liked what Fisher did. It was like I say, very brutal, and he's classy. At one point, Eddie Fisher, he put Whitaker down. I think it was the first of the 3 knockdowns, and when he put him down, he actually hit him when he was kind of on his knees. He was down when he hit him, and he instantly hugged him to say sorry while the guy was down on one knee, and the guy hugged him back and then obviously beat the count and got back up. So it wasn't malicious from Johnny Fisher, but yeah, good brutal performance. Clearly still a work in progress, but nonetheless an exciting heavyweight figure, I think, for the future. Moving on now, Akib Fiaz with a win. He's now 7-0, an expected points win over 8 rounds, although I'm hearing he didn't have it all his own way. He only won by a point, 77-76 against Kevin Baudaspino, who's now 9-6 with 2 draws. Let's talk about Alan Babich. I mean, he had to dig deep, which I didn't expect. His opponent came into the fight after almost 2 years out, and his opponent came into the fight with a black eye before the fight had started, and 15 extra pounds around his waist. He hadn't been stopped in his 1 loss, which was to Nick Webb, and he hadn't been past 6 rounds. I expected Babich to knock him out quite early, within a couple, but yeah, wow, did his opponent eat some shots and land some good ones. I felt it should have been stopped way earlier. I was worried for Mark Bennett's health, to be honest. He was taking so many big shots. His brain must have been going everywhere in his head. And yeah, what was great about this fight is right afterwards, Alan Babich, the Savage, proposed to his girlfriend, which was beautiful in Eddie Hearn's back garden. They'll never forget that one. He got down on one knee in the post-fight interview. She had no idea. It was beautiful, actually. It was really nice to see. And just looking at him against Bennett just looked so much bigger than him. He looked really small, Babich. They say he's really a cruiserweight fighting at heavyweight. Once again, I'm not sure what the win proved, but a good win all in all. Elsewhere on the card, let's talk about I liked these heavyweight matchups that they were throwing in. Let's talk about Fabio Wardley, now 12-0, a TKO in the first round against Nick Webb. It was for the English heavyweight title. 17-3 now, Nick Webb. Nick Webb came out all guns blazing. He was winning the round for sure. He got caught in the corner and he had no idea how to block the punches. He went down and for me took a knee, but Wardley kept punching and then the referee jumped in and stopped it. Awful stoppage, very premature in my opinion. It left a bitter taste in my mouth. We won't see the rematch, but I'm not sure what we've learned about Wardley. And as for Webb, despite on paper being stopped in one round, I don't think he really took any punishment, and I'm more excited to see him back than I am Wardley. So, taking nothing away from Wardley, he did what he had to do. You know, he weathered a storm, he came back, got the knockout, even though I don't think it should have been stopped. But, yeah, all the best to him. But I'm a fan of Nick Webb. I like Nick Webb a lot. And moving up to the main event, Kid Galahad, he's the new IBF World Featherweight Champion. Finally, he has got over the line. He's 28-1. His opponent, Jazza Dickens, retired on his store at the end of round 11. He couldn't come out for that final 3 minutes. He's now 30-4. I was sad for Jazza Dickens because he's a friend of the show as well. I didn't want to see him get stopped. I thought they would go all the way, so I was almost right, but I was wrong in the end. Yeah, let's talk about that fight there. You know, I tweeted it as well in the week. I'd be happy for either guy to win the fight. Both guys friends of the show. Good first round for Jazza Dickens. I felt that Kid Galahad took over from the second round onwards, and Galahad is so technically sound. He doesn't really make many mistakes. He kept investing in the body of Dickens early. His footwork and his jab and the switch hitting. I mean, he's just such a classy boxer. And I said he might just be a little bit too cute for Jazza Dickens. It definitely looked that way. Around the midway point, Dickens' face was starting to get really busted up. The punch picking of Galahad was on another level to Dickens. The one thing that went against Galahad was the point deduction for repeatedly stepping on Jazza Dickens' feet. And in the end, like we say, after 11 rounds, Dickens' corner pulled him out because his face was bloodied up. He had a badly swollen, I think it was left eye, and he was done. You know, it would have been a bit crazy to send him out for that 12th and final round. You know, there was no need. There was nothing to prove. And it's another world champion for Brendan Ingle, which is crazy. I mean, this is a guy who, like Emmanuel Stewart, you know, tipped a few guys to become world champions and then passed away and didn't get to see them fulfill on what he'd said. And it's another 2 world champions in 2 weeks for Brendan Ingle. I mean, it's just amazing. Obviously, we had Lee Wood and then now Kid Galahad, 2 guys that spent a lot of time in the Ingle gym, you know, the Winkerbank gym back in the day. And it's just amazing to see, like, when you hear about these things, when someone tips someone to be a world champion, they pass away and then they get it right. Just like when you know, Emmanuel Stewart said that Tyson Fury would be the future of the heavyweight division and he'd be a world champion and he's going to take over from Klitschko. It's just crazy when you hear things like this. So yeah, that I think was that card. We've gone through everything there, haven't we? Galahad, Wardley, Babich, Bridges, Fiaz, Fisher, yeah. Moving out now to the card that took place at the Minneapolis Armory in Minnesota, USA. Over here, we will be speaking to him very shortly. Mykal Fox. So yeah, just before the fight started, when they were walking to the middle of the ring, Mykal Fox's dad, Troy Fox, I believe his name is, he spotted that the opponent, Gabriel Maestra, his like, you know, the tape that's supposed to be around his wrist, it wasn't signed off on, and it was almost coming up his glove to the base of his thumb kind of thing. So he spotted that. He alerted the referee. The referee made them rewrap that, which I don't think I've seen in the past. It was very high up on the glove. So straight away he made him rewrap it. The first round of the fight, when it eventually did start, because this delayed it by some moments or some minutes, you know, the first round could have gone either way. The second round, obviously, Mykal Fox dropped Maestra in the second round with a lovely left hand, and Fox went on to dominate the fight quite easily, I felt. He was boxing off the back foot, but also getting the better of the exchanges when up close. The commentary scorecard was 119-108 for Mykal Fox, so that's 11 rounds to 1, including that that 10-8 round for the knockdown in round 2. So they had it that wide. They had it to Mykal Fox by 11 points. On the commentary, I think it was Marcos Villegas who did the scorecard, but also on the commentary was Joe Goosen and Lennox Lewis. They didn't object to that. And yeah, when the scorecards were read out from the 3 official judges, somehow we heard a unanimous decision for Maestre. And it's one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in my life. It seems to be happening all too often. It's ruining the sport that we all love. And I'm happy that a lot of people are standing up about this. I mean, it was blatant incompetence. And I can't really bring myself, I can't really find the words to describe it. It was unbelievable. I'm lost for words on how they can do something that blatant. The fight was on Fox, for crying out loud. The fight was on Fox. Everyone's got that channel in the US. People were watching it in the UK. You can't do this on a show like that. You can't do this that blatantly, But we will be speaking to Mykal Fox and we'll get into that. But yeah, disgraceful. And the fact that Gabriel Maestre is now the WBA interim world welterweight title, champion, I should say, after 4 fights, he's now 4-0. That's a joke. He was 3-0 with 3 KOs. He got totally outclassed. Didn't come close to getting another knockout. All his other 3 fights had took place in Colombia. It was disgraceful. There should be an immediate rematch or an investigation into what's gone on, because I've got to say, I think it's corrupt. Something's going on there. It's inexcusable. And the fact that Mykal Fox came into the fight on late notice, ridiculous. Anyway, elsewhere on the card, friend of the show, Devon Alexander, returned to the ring. He lost a 10-round unanimous decision to Lucas Santamaria, who's on a bit of a roll now. In his last fight, he beat Mykal Fox, who I've just been speaking about, and now he's beaten former world champion Devon Alexander. So he's better than his record suggests. He's 12-2 with a draw. It wasn't the best fight to watch, though. Elsewhere on the card, Imantas Stanionis, 13-0. I think he had about 9 or 10 KOs. He got in there with former world champion Louis Collazo in what was going to be Collazo's retirement fight. Really good fight while it lasted. It went into the 4th round and it was a great fight up until that point. Louis Collazo came and, tried to put it on the young prospect, and he probably wasn't winning the fight, Collazo, but it was close. It was nip and tuck. And then in the 4th round, a head clash, and Louis Collazo, I've got to be honest, I think he made a meal out of it, to be honest with you. He fell on the floor. He couldn't stand up. He was blinking real hard. The referee was happy to give him 5 minutes. He was wincing. The cut didn't look that bad. He just couldn't get up. They were saying, is he concussed? What's going on? They gave him a few minutes and he couldn't stand up. He was all over the place. The ringside doctor asked, could he see? He said no. And they stopped it. So it ended up being a no contest. And Louis Collazo, the moment that they said the fight's over, he got straight back up. So I'm not sure what was going on there. But I want to say, I think Bernard Hopkins would have been proud there. Elsewhere on that card, I think we've gone through that card actually. That is it for that card. So that is it for the review part of the show. I've tried to fly through that as quick as possible. But yeah, just before we wrap up the review part of the show and welcome our first guest, it's now time to thank our sponsor. This podcast is sponsored by Manscaped, but the opinions expressed are those of myself and former heavyweight world title challenger Eddie Chambers. Manscaped are a leading brand in below-the-waist grooming. Last week when we spoke about this product, and the products that they sent us to try out, Eddie, I just kept speaking and speaking and speaking. I was talking from the heart, and it felt great. It was great speaking about this, but I didn't really give you a chance to talk about it. So I wanted to ask you. You've obviously tried out the products now. What was your thoughts on, the products as a whole, or each product individual? Take it away, man.
Yeah, I'm a person who was always, with the below the waist grooming. And thanks to Manscaped, they made it even easier. Because honestly, with the creams and all that stuff you got to use, and shaving, sometimes you get cuts and little nicks and things like that, and it can make it a bit uncomfortable even after. But with Manscaped, it was actually kind of easy, man. You just take the clippers down there, just as if you were cutting your head. You know what I mean? And get a nice little shave, or actually not your head, your beard, and give it a nice trim. You could even design it if you want. You know what I mean? Whatever you desire. But the ball reviver, which I really like. Just you feel clean afterwards. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, they got this lovely smelling deodorant. I mean, I never heard of a ball deodorant in my life until now, but I gotta say, it's a great addition to the package, and it just makes it all nicer. You know what I mean? Like I said, you can go out, you can be confident that you're clean down there. You know what I mean? So respect the Manscaped, and that will not be a one-time use. I'm gonna be getting a lot of reps in with that. Trust me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I agree with everything you say. I mean, I particularly really like the deodorant. I mean, it smells amazing. Obviously, you know the little trick. You do the deodorant. When it dries, you spray on a little bit of that ball toner and refresher, and it just makes it all smell beautiful. It really does. But yeah, like I say, we're sponsored by Manscaped. You can visit them at www.manscaped.com and use the promo code BoxHard for 20% off and free shipping as well. They had a sale on last week, and I think the sale's ended now, but the sale can continue if you use the code BoxHard. Like I say, once again, 20% off and free shipping. And who knows, maybe you'll have people running back to your sack. I'm telling you now, myself and Eddie certainly do.
Your balls will thank you.
Absolutely. And like I said, we've thanked the sponsor there. It's now time to welcome our first guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the top welterweight prospect / contender, and the man I should be calling the interim world champion if he wouldn't have been robbed on Saturday night. It is, of course, Mr. Mykal Fox. Mike, welcome back on the show, my friend.
Hey, Joey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure speaking with you, Mike. So first things first, how are you feeling right now after such a horrendous robbery on Saturday night? Obviously a unanimous decision for your opponent, but it was a unanimous decision for yourself on Twitter, on social media. I haven't seen even one person say you didn't win that fight.
Yeah, it still stings, but the biggest thing about it is, and what my coach and my dad / coach is telling me, is that everybody's seen this. Like that the whole world watched you get stuck up, watched you get robbed tonight. So, we can find a little comfort in that. But like had it just been a dog show, everybody just would have been like, we would have told, oh man, he got robbed. They were like, yeah, okay, man, he'll get him next time. But everybody's seeing it and everybody's being vocal about it. And that's helping me tremendously.
And obviously it wasn't the only thing that happened that night. Your opponent tried to have the fight with his tape way too high on the glove. Tell me about that. Obviously your dad spotted it. He made them redo the tape, and that was just the start of all the issues, I guess.
Yeah. So that was what I saw. Okay, I saw he had the gloves. The gloves were taped too high, and the gloves were not signed off on by an inspector. You could see the referee, Mark Nelson, asking. He said, yo, who signed off on these? He said, these are too high. I want to know who signed off on them. I mean, I don't know if anybody took ownership of it, but that wasn't even where it started. It started when I sent my cut man to wrap his hands. To wash his hands get wrapped. Excuse me. He was kind of stacking. He was stacking, putting the tape on the skin, like tape, gauze, and more tape, which is illegal here in the States. Let me go on record and say I don't think Maestre is a dirty fighter. I think he's fought, like most of his fights have been in Colombia. They might allow that in their inspectors may allow that in their commission. And in a world title fight, you want to do what you've normally been able to do. You don't want to change anything. It's the biggest fight of your career. I don't think Maestre is dirty, but I will say, I will say that was just the gloves. That wasn't the only thing. He was intentionally or unintentionally trying to stack, and then he taped the gloves too high, which is the term I heard for it is called skinning the gloves to make the knuckles more apparent when he punches. Like I said, if they're used to doing that in different countries, that's that's not something I'm gonna hold against Gabriel himself. But there was a lot of that could have been a lot of controversy in there. But shout out to Marshall Kaufman, my promoter, who actually spotted it, and he told my father, and my father said something about it, and we got it fixed. And that was what that 10 minutes was that on the broadcast of him fixing his gloves. That's what that was about. If anyone didn't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. And tell me, Mike, about the fight itself. I mean, some people felt you may have lost the first round. Obviously, you came out and, put him down in the second round, a brilliant left hand. And after that, you seemed to dominate the fight pretty much in 99% of people's eyes right up until the final bell.
Yeah, well, in that first fight, that first round, my main thing is to make sure I'm not getting hit. And I'm establishing my jab, and I'm establishing good, hard, sharp, straight punches, to keep these guys out. So I probably lost. I could have lost the first round because he jumped in and charged in to do and threw a bunch of stuff that didn't land and didn't really. And if it did land, it probably didn't hurt. But that's my round to establish my jab, and to establish my jab, establish my defense, my timing on defense as well. And then, that left hand that I put him down with the second round was something I was looking for since the first round. So, yeah, okay, so maybe I did lose the round, but look, I made up for it in a big way in the second round.
Yeah, you certainly did. And like I say, after that, you seemed to dominate. You fought unbelievable, especially coming in on late notice, which, kind of, it hurts even more, the fact that it was a unanimous decision the other way. I mean, it was awful. People are talking about WBA corruption. Is that something you believe in as well? I know people like Al Bernstein come out and said things like that. That's quite a big allegation. What's your thoughts on that kind of stuff?
I mean, it's a big allegation. Al Bernstein has been in the fight game longer than I have to talk about long time corruption. I haven't really gotten in too far into that. If you want to talk anybody wants to talk corruption, they can take that up with my advisor or my advisor Mike Burrell or my promoter Marshall Kaufman. Both of those guys have been in the game longer than me. All I know is what happened to me this time, and it's not something that should keep happening if it's a thing that's happening regularly.
I know after the fight, Mike, obviously everyone came pouring in with support from all over social media, from all over the world, the UK, America, everywhere. Everyone that saw the fight knows that you should have won. And like I say, the support must have been overwhelming. You told me your phone hadn't stopped ringing. Of all the people that you spoke to, who seemed to have the kind of effect on you that, was able to raise your mood after, just minutes after what had been such a horrible thing?
It was Lennox Lewis and Joe Goose, and they called me to the after the broadcast ended. They sent someone to find me, like, yo, go find him before he leaves. And they went to a lady found me, said, man, Lennox Lewis I've been looking for you for like a half an hour. Lennox Lewis wants to talk to you. He sent me to come get you. Go to talk to him, and the first thing he does when I come in there, he says, bro, you won that fight. Don't let nobody tell you otherwise. And he was just he told me about how he saw my progression as a fighter through the fights of me he's seen. And just to know that, as a commentator, it's his job to know about the fighters, but to know that he sat and watched multiple fights of mine, me versus Ergashev, me versus Santa Maria, and me versus Maestre just a few days ago. And for him to tell me he's seeing a bunch of progression in my boxing, that definitely cheered me up. And for him to tell me that I won that fight, him and Joe Goosen both said, yo, you won that fight, and don't let nobody take that from you. And that really did cheer me up a lot.
Now, that's beautiful to hear, Mike. It really is. I love things like that. I know it's early, of course, but what do you want to be your next move, and what do you think will be your next move, realistically?
I gave it a lot of thought. I thought, man, yeah, let me get a rematch, but in reality, that's gonna be WBA saying I gotta beat this guy twice. I gotta beat this guy twice to reap the benefits of what I should already have now. I mean, if the rematch is the next step, the rematch is the next step. But I would rather them overturn the decision because I mean, dude, this wasn't a close fight. I earned this. Not just I don't deserve. I earned this that belt. I earned everything that comes with that belt. I earned the right to face Jamal James next, which I thought was going to be the next step. Or maybe it still can be the next step. I earned the right to fight Jamal James for his WBA title. You know, I thought that would be the next step. That was the next logical step after fighting for the interim, after fighting and winning the interim title. You know, but now we just have to wait and see after all this investigation and things are done. We just got to wait and see what my next step actually is.
And Mike, I want to ask you this as well because I know that you're someone that spends a hell of a lot of time in the gym, even if it's just to support your gym mates. Have you been back in the gym already?
Yeah, I went back to the gym in support of my gym mates. Alonte Fox Plaza, he is fighting at the end of the month, and my other teammate Gregory Outlaw is fighting early next month, September 10th. So I'm back there, lending my support, lending my energy, but I'm keeping myself from actually training because after having a grueling training camp and fighting a hard 12 rounds, you have to let your body heal. You owe your body that much. In boxing, you ask a lot of your body. So when it's time, an opportunity for your body to rest, you have to give your body that chance to do just that.
Just finally, Mike, before we wrap it up, if you've got any closing words, usually I like to ask you pretty much for the UK fans, if you send them a message, but I feel like it's only right to give you an opportunity just to send out a message to not just the UK fans, but everyone worldwide that's poured in their support after watching that terrible decision against yourself on Saturday night.
The biggest thing I want to say is thank you to everyone who voiced their displeasure on social media after the final bell had rang, because anything that I could do about it could be done within that 36 minutes I fought. I just want to say thank you to everybody who voiced their opinion and they let the WBA know that they did not approve of what happened to me. It's given me leverage. It's opened up this investigation. If people would have just stayed silent, I would have just sat idly by and been the next case of a fighter robbed. But because everybody spoke up and spoke out, and there's an investigation, something's being done about it, and I thank everyone from the bottom of my heart for speaking up, for speaking up for me while I have to endure just the pain that comes with losing one of the biggest fights of your career.
Yeah, it's something I can...
Not getting the decision. We'll say not getting the decision. I didn't lose.
Yeah, no, it's something that I can only imagine, Mike. I admire your mental toughness and, the fact that you're remaining positive after such a blatant incompetence from the officials is just awful. I'm obviously heartbroken for you, being a friend of mine. I can only imagine what you're going through, like I say. But we will catch up again soon, Mike. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, like I say. I really mean that.
Yeah, I appreciate speaking to you too, man. It's always good to hear from you, on and off the record.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. Boy, oh boy, we're going to start here with a bit of a sad one, Eddie. It's just broken. We're recording this podcast on a Tuesday, but it's just broken that the fight is off between Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence. Errol Spence suffered an eye injury. I believe it was a detached retina, so he's out of the fight. In steps Yordenis Ugas. A bit of a blow, really, because it was a fight I was looking forward to so much. We only had another week to wait, and now it's fallen through. So just give me a quick word on that one falling through. And of course, Ugas is a very good replacement, but you'd have to now say that Pacquiao is probably the clear favourite, I think.
Yeah, 100%. It's just like when I heard it, I said, man, because that was a topic of conversation so much with boxing fans and fighters and all that alike. It was just like, it was what we wanted to see. You know what I mean? Even though, most people figure, Pacquiao's past it, but he's been doing so well. It's kind of nice it would just be kind of nice to see him in there with Spence. I don't know why, but I really was looking forward to this fight and to hear that and Now he got a detached retina. That is a very, very, very nasty injury to have, man. And it's like, how is he going to be after it? You know what I mean? Is everything going to, is the surgery, or if he has to get surgery or anything like that, is it going to go well? And it's like, what's going to happen with the rest of his career? But on to Ugas, and it's like, Ugas is a great replacement. He's a good guy to put in. It's an interesting fight. He's going to come to fight. He's obviously going to come to win. But, I would think that, Pacquiao, especially if he's able to show that he still has a lot in the tank, should be able to win that fight pretty, I don't want to say easily, but he should be able to win the fight.
Yeah, we shall see. It's a bad blow for boxing fans, but all the best to Errol Spence. Yeah, in other news, the IBF featherweight world champion, Kid Galahad, the newly crowned champion, has signed a promotional deal with Matchroom. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be, a 2-fight deal or a 3-fight deal or whatever. Not sure about that stuff, but he's signed with them. I thought he was already signed to them, but it is what it is. That is it, though, for the news part of the show. Moving on to the preview part, a really good card here that takes place on Friday, August 13th. So tomorrow, by the time this podcast goes out, at the Plaza de Toros de Puerto Banús in Marbella, Andalusia, Spain. There we go, baby. Andoni Gargo topping the bill. He is in a 12-rounder against Karim Guerfi, coming off that first-round knockout defeat to Lee McGregor. It's for the EBU European featherweight title. Moving out now to the Hotel Atlantis in Dubai. This is a weird card, Eddie, and you know I love a weird card. Topping the bill, Anthony Sims Jr., 20-1 in a 12-rounder against Hernan Perez, who's 8-3. That one's for the vacant WBA Intercontinental Super Middleweight title. You've got Austin No Doubt Trout, friend of the show, 33-5 with a draw in a 10-rounder against Alejandro Davila, who's 22-2 with 2 draws. Austin Trout, a guy I've always had a lot of time for. I think he was the first world champion I ever interviewed, so I've always kind of had a place for him in my heart somewhere. But yeah, the guy he takes on, a Mexican fighter. He suffered a loss to Sergei Boachuk back in 2020. He retired on his store after 6 against him. His other loss came to Mikhail Zuski. We'll see. That could be interesting, actually. And I'm not finished on that card. Mike Perez, the Cuban, is back. He returns to the ring after almost 3 years out of it. Mike Perez, 24-3 with a draw, steps in against Tony Salam, who's 14-2, Nigerian fighter based in London. Looking at his record, and it's not that impressive at all. Be interesting though to see the Cuban back in the ring, the Cuban that lives in Ireland. Moving out now to the Matchroom HQ Garden in Brentwood, Essex, United Kingdom. This one, it's a decent card. I think it's a decent card. You've got Zelfa Barrett rumoured to be on the card, 25-1. No opponent just yet. He's supposed to be having a 10-round fight. Joe Cordina, 12-0 in a 10-rounder against Joshua Hernandez, who's 10-3. You've got Hopi Price, 4-0 in against Claudio Grande, who's 5-0. That's over 6 rounds. Somebody's O must go. You've got Raymond Ford of the United States, 8-0 with a draw in a 10-rounder against Reese the Bomber Bellotti, who's 14-4. That could be interesting. I think Raymond Ford is a talented fighter, but Reese Bellotti can punch. He really can punch. I've seen him been losing a fight and then come back to win by knockout. It's for the vacant WBA Continental Featherweight title. I think Reese Bellotti truly has got one foot out the door, really, but I'd like to see him do it, to be completely honest. Elsewhere on that card, we have Cash Farouk, 15-1. It's for the vacant WBC International Bantamweight title. He takes on Luis Gerardo Castillo, who's 28-2. Just want to quickly look at his record. I can't say I've heard of the guy before, to be honest. Mexican fighter. Oh boy, this is quite a bad record looking at this. I mean, I don't think he's beaten a guy with a winning record yet. Maybe 1 or 2 early on, and they were bad. Oh man. Okay. moving on swiftly. We've got Michael Mckinson, friend of the show, 20-0, stepping in for the first time since beating Chris Congo in Gibraltar. He defends his WBO global welterweight title against Prism Slaw Ranowski. Probably saying that name really wrong. He's 19-1. His one loss came on points to Josh Kelly before Josh Kelly went out to the States and fought Ray Robinson and, of course, got the draw. He's quite tough, Ranowski, to be honest with you. He's not a puncher. He's an out-and-out boxer. So is Mckinson. I can see that one going the distance. It's over 12, like I say. But yeah, Mckinson, I think, is going to win that. He's raring to go, man. He's a guy in some serious form. And the main event, Joshua Buatsi, the Olympic bronze medalist, 14-0, defending his WBA international light heavyweight title against Ricards Bolotniks, a man who won the Golden Contract MTK tournament. He's coming off that win in the final against Serge Michel. The fight before that, he beat Jose Burton. The fight before that, he knocked out in one round the previously undefeated Stephen Ward. He's really in some form, man. His last loss came back in 2018, 3 years ago, to Tabiso Machunu. So, yeah, this guy's a good fighter. Since losing to Machunu, he has put together an impressive streak of wins. That could be interesting there. I really think it could, because Bolotniks is quite stubborn. Buatsi is no doubt the better boxer and all the rest of that, but you know, I think Bolotniks is going to try and put it on Buatsi, and I think it's going to be interesting. But Buatsi, I mean, Jesus, he should win the fight. It's another opponent that I don't think we're too pleased about. It's a step in the right direction though. Moving out now to the Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California, USA. Over here we've got Rashay Warren, 18-3, in against Damian Vasquez, 16-2 with a draw. That's over 10 rounds there. I want to say Damian Vasquez is the guy that I think lost to, I think it was, oh my gosh, was it Brandon Figueroa, I think? Yes, his last fight, he lost to Brandon Figueroa, TKO round 10. His other loss came to Juan Carlos Payano. He's not that bad of a fighter though, so it's a decent fight for Rashay Warren. Elsewhere on that card, we will be speaking to him soon. Gary Antonio Russell, 18-0 with 12 KOs in a 12-rounder for the WBA interim world bantamweight title against Emmanuel Rodriguez, 19-2, coming off that loss to Raymark Gabayo, which was terrible. I remember the commentary team had it a complete shutout for Emmanuel Rodriguez, and somehow they gave it to Raymark Gabayo, so there's no way in the world he should be coming off a loss. And by the way, Gary Antonio Russell fought on that undercard. Now he's fighting the man. So I think that's going to be a great fight. I don't know, that's a tough fight there for Gary Antonio Russell, as talented as the Russell brothers are. And the main event, John Real Casimero, 30-4. It was supposed to be a unification against Nonito Donaire. They couldn't agree on certain things. In stepped Rigondo, 20-1. Again, Rigondo still only has that one loss to Lomachenko. It's going to be a good fight there for the WBO bantamweight world title over 12 rounds. Really looking forward to that one. That's on Showtime. Moving out now to the World Congress Center in Atlanta, Georgia. Over here, a couple guys to mention. We've got return to the ring for Anthony Peterson, who's 37-1 with a draw. It's his 40th fight. I thought he was retired. He's fighting a 6-rounder against Jairo Lopez, who's 27-12. I think it's the first time that Peterson's boxed in quite a while. I don't think he's actually won a fight for about 5 years, which is crazy to think that he's only got one loss. He's been inactive and things haven't really been too smooth for him, I don't think, outside of the ring. Elsewhere on that card, Hasim Rahman Jr., friend of the show, in a 6-rounder against Nathan Bedwell, who's 5-17 with a draw, and Sharif Rahman, the brother, 6 rounds against Donis Reed, who's 3-8 with a draw. Sharif Rahman 4-0. I hope that both the Rahman brothers remain undefeated and both pick up wins there. Moving out now to the Cosmopolitan Lounge in Georgia, USA. Just one fight to mention over here. It's a prospect to keep an eye on. I've said it for years now. Lorenzo Simpson, 9-0, looking to make it double-figure wins in an 8-rounder against Manny Woods, who's 17-12 with a draw. I always mention Lorenzo Simpson. He's never been on the show, but I know he's a really good young prospect. Moving out now to the Palladium in Massachusetts, USA. A good heavyweight fight over here. Friend of the show, Cassius Chaney, 20-0 in a 10-rounder against Shaundell Winters, 13-5. That's a really, really good fight for Cassius Chaney. There's so much action on. I'm really excited for this. Moving out now to the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Tulsa, Oklahoma, USA. Over here on the undercard, Jason Maloney, the one half of the Maloney twins, 21-2 in a 10-rounder against Joshua Greer Jr., 22-2 with 2 draws. Brilliant fight there for the vacant WBC silver bantamweight title. Elsewhere on the card, Arnold Barboza Jr., 25-0, steps in against Antonio Moran, who's 26-4 with a draw. That's over 10 rounds. And the main event, it's the third fight. It's the trilogy fight between Joshua Franco, 17-1 with 2 draws in a 12-rounder against Andrew Maloney, 21-1 for the WBA World Super Flyweight title. This is redemption time for Andrew Maloney, to be honest with you. The first fight he lost fair and square. The second fight he cut Franco with a punch, but they said it was an accidental head clash, and it should have been, I mean, it was investigated. I didn't hear any update. There was, film of the fight. They stopped the fight for half an hour. I remember watching it. And so did you, Eddie. I remember you watched it where they paused the fight for half an hour to review like one round and still didn't get it right. We were both fuming about that, and I kind of want him to win. I mean, he's a friend of the show. Of course I want him to win, but he deserves to win, man. God almighty. But it's going to be a good fight, and oh my God, there's probably going to be drama again because there seems to be drama every time. So all the best to Andrew Maloney. What a fight that's going to be there. Really looking forward to that. Again, that one's on ESPN, so I've got to find a way to watch all of these fights. And the final card to mention, at the Ford Center in Frisco, Texas, USA. This one's on DAZN. You've got Virgil Ortiz Jr., 17-0 with 17 KOs for the WBO International Welterweight title against the, what do they call him? The Machine. Egis Kavalauskas, 22-1 with a draw. The one loss came to Terence Crawford. Man, this is a brilliant step up for Ortiz. He's coming off that win last time out against Maurice Hooker. It's another step in the right direction. I think this guy is the future. It's so exciting, this welterweight division, when you speak about the likes of Virgil Ortiz and the likes of Jaron Ennis. I mean, these guys are the future, and it's a brilliant fight. I want to see Jaron Ennis start picking up his opposition, to be honest with you. I like his fight last time out against Lipinets. Full credit for that one, but this is another one here for Ortiz. I think the undercard features 2 world title fights, if I'm not mistaken, as well. That's what I've heard. I can't see it online at the minute. But anyway, that's it for the preview part of the show. We tried to fly through that. There's just so much on. The final thing for me to do is to welcome our second guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated bantamweight contender. It is, of course, Mr. Gary Antonio Russell. Gary, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure. So, Gary, first things first, your older brother, Gary Jr., has been on the show a few times before. Obviously, it's the first time you've been on. Just tell me from your perspective what it was like, growing up in an out-and-out pure boxing family, training in that infamous boxing basement you had.
Oh, man, it was tough. It was tough. We had very little, but the things that we did have, we made work. We grind hard. We trained every day. We stuck to it.
And it is unbelievable. Like I say, the amount of talent in one family. How many amateur fights did you have in total, Gary? Because obviously all the brothers have got deep amateur careers. Obviously you all won the Golden Gloves at least once. It's sensational.
Honestly, I don't even know how many amateur bouts I had. I just know I had a little over 200. And I know I had 13 losses. Okay. I remember everyone I lost to. Okay. So I know I have 13 losses.
Okay, well, like I say, you're all, you all had very deep amateur careers. You've been a pro since 2015. You're still undefeated, like I said, Gary, but correct me if I'm wrong here. Obviously, Gary Russell Jr. is flying the flag for the family due to being a world champion. Gary Antoine Russell is being spoken about a lot more, especially recently due to that knockout streak that just continues to go on and on. Is it fair to say that you're the least spoken about brother right now? And if so, does that mean that the pressure isn't on you as much as them?
I mean, it's fair to say that. I feel as though I am. I'm not assertive as the rest of my bros. Also, I does not feel that it puts more pressure on me. It don't. I like to see my bros shine. I know in due time, probably after this fight, more people would notice me.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the last fight as well was a brilliant thing for your profile. And I want to touch on that just briefly. You boxed December 19th against Juan Carlos Payano. You won the fight, obviously a technical decision after 7. A very good win considering Payano was coming off that highly disputed loss the fight before to Daniel Roman. A lot of people thought he did enough to beat Daniel Roman, so he certainly wasn't done. He certainly wasn't over the hill. Just tell me briefly about that win for you there.
Honestly, as of right now, in my professional rankings, I feel like that was my toughest bout that I had thus far. And it's not because of Payano's skill set. Honestly, mentally, I was somewhere else with losing my brother the same week in which I had to actually compete. And I feel like that played a big part in my skill set and how I looked in the fight against Payano.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that. I understand that's a terrible thing. I didn't actually know that, but boxing is obviously very.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Do you know what? It sounds crazy to say it. I'm going to go off track a little bit here, but I'm in the same situation right now myself. My brother is actually coming to his final days with cancer right now, so I can understand
I'm
the
sorry to
situation.
hear that, man.
It's
I'm
okay,
sorry
man.
to hear that.
It's okay, man. It's okay. It's terrible. But anyways, we'll get back to it.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah, we'll get back to it. I'm glad that we can both relate in some way there. Your next fight is taking place this Saturday in California on the Redondo versus Casimero undercard. You're boxing former IBF world champion Emmanuel Rodriguez. Now, your fight with Payano was on his undercard, and on that night, Rodriguez, in my opinion, was 100% robbed against Raymark Gaballo. So again, Rodriguez is certainly not done. Tell me your thoughts on him as a fighter, Gary.
My thoughts on him as a fighter, he's a good one. He's a well-seasoned fighter. He has ample hand speed. He has decent punching power according to his record. He has a good ring IQ. He knows his way around the ring. I feel like he's a tough, all-rounded fighter.
Do you see this as being a tougher fight than the Payano fight? I know you obviously touched on the reason that fight was so tough was because of the outside of the ring issues.
I don't know. Styles makes fights. Style makes fight. I'm looking to go in there and have a tough fight. Definitely not. I'm going in there to look to be calculated, smart, use my ring IQ, defensive hand, discipline, and everything, and execute all our game plan.
And I want to ask you this as well. I mentioned that you boxed on Rodriguez's undercard back in December. Were you able to watch that main event live in person? Did you get to watch it up close or not?
Honestly, like I said, mentally I was dealing with so much. With losing my brother and fighting in the same week. After I fought, I went and got my meds, and I completely broke down in the back room, and I had to leave. So, no, I didn't get to watch the fight live at all. I don't even think I watched his fight to probably, an entire month later.
Okay, I understand that, man. I want to ask you this as well, Gary. How do you see this fight playing out? It's still not been too long since you lost your brother. Is that something that's gonna, affect you mentally in the ring this time?
Oh, nah. It's something I definitely still deal with every single morning I wake up. But I feel like I'm strong enough and mentally strong enough to really, tunnel in for this fight.
I'm glad to hear that, my friend. And obviously this fight's for the WBA interim bantamweight world title. The regular champion is currently Redondo. Like I said, he's the main event. You're boxing on the undercard. Is that the fight that you'll be hoping to get next, the winner of Redondo Casimero?
I mean, I would love to see that fight. I mean, I would love for that fight to happen for me as well. But first thing first, we got to get past Emmanuel. You know, I'm not overlooking anyone. So for me to win this fight, if it puts me in the position to actually fight him, that's what I would love.
That's what we'd love as well as fans. I mean, it's, like I say, such an exciting thing being able to watch you and your brothers at the top level. It's just unbelievable. I'm all for it. I want to ask you this as well. I don't want you to look too far ahead, but is there anyone else that you would like to fight in your head? Do you have like a list of names or any names at all that you want to fight at some point in the near future?
In order.
Any order.
In order. If John Real Casimiro come out victorious, it would be him. Just take this fight out of the equation, period. If they was never fighting each other in order, if I had a chance to fight these people, it would be John Real Casimiro, then Regendow, Denito Denier. No, maybe Denito Denier first or Regendow, and then Inui.
Okay.
Louis Nori used to be in that list of fighters. He used to be in my list of fighters, but he's not undefeated. So.
Yeah, we saw him lose, obviously, recently,
Yeah.
Now, that's a brilliant list, though. I mean, all those fights are very exciting, of course. I don't have to tell you that. They're brilliant fights. What's your thoughts on Naoya Inui?
Oh, he's a great fighter. He's one of the greatest. He's actually one of my favorites in my division, actually. I love the punching power which he possesses. You know, he's a skilled young fighter. I like him.
Yeah, a little
like
Japanese beast he is. Just coming down to my couple last questions here. He's okay. Just coming down to my last couple questions, Gary. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, but the listeners love to hear the answers that guys from overseas come up with for this question. Who springs to mind, Gary, when I ask who's your favourite fighter from the UK? It can be any era. Who springs to mind?
Honestly, I don't have one right now. I can't say.
That's okay.
I honestly can't say. Yeah, you're going to have to come back on me with this. I'm going to have to really look and be like, hey, let me see which really great fighter that I like. Because I like all of them. I watch them a lot. Actually, one of my favorites, she's a female too. I forget her name. She's a female fighter. She usually fights in black and gold.
I forget her
name.
Katie Taylor?
Yes.
Okay.
She's from the UK, correct?
She's from Ireland, so it's like next door. So it's not. It's
no,
actually not
really,
considered
not really.
UK.
Not really. No, so I can't count her either. Yeah, you gotta get back at me with that. Also, forgive me because I'm also not a guy who watches boxing regularly, and even though I'm a fighter.
Exactly. That's what.
It's weird.
That's what your brother Gary Jr. told me before as well. He really never watches boxing. I've asked him about some fights and he doesn't even know who the guys are. So
yeah, so I don't want anybody to think I'm being disrespectful or downplaying anything. I honestly just don't watch it. One thing I can say is I started to watch it more now as I climbed up the rankings. Okay. You know, I feel like as the more I climb up the ranking, I'm getting more submerged into the sport which I ever was. So I'm actually starting to study everyone, you know, look at everyone good and bad. So I'm watching older guys, newer guys, and everything.
Okay,
so I can honestly say that now I am picking up on watching a lot of the fighters now.
Okay, that's fine. But yeah, we will come back to that. I'm sure we will speak again in the future. Just before we wrap it up, Gary, if you've got any closing words just to the listeners, in particular as well, the UK fans. Over here, we've got, you know, heaps and heaps of boxing fans. They love real fighters. You're a guy that, you know, hardcore fans over here absolutely admire. They admire your entire family. What's your words to those guys that support you from this part of the world?
Man, I thank y'all. Keep supporting. I'm glad that I know. I'm looking forward to coming over to the UK and fight. It's always been a dream of mine. It's something that I always said I wanted to do once I turned pro. So hopefully y'all get to see me over there on y'all side of town. I can perform. And
real briefly, what is your social media handles? Where can people follow you if they're not already following you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Gary Antonio Russell _.
Okay, there we go. Gary Antonio Russell _ Follow that if you're not already following. But listen, Gary, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you, my friend. Thank you for your time. Best of luck for Saturday night, and I hope that we can speak sometime after.
Likewise, and I thank you, and I appreciate you for having me.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 304 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our two guests this week, the top welterweight contender Mykal Fox and the undefeated bantamweight contender Gary Antonio Russell. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. Thank you once again for tuning in this week. Remember, this podcast is sponsored by Manscaped. Visit manscaped.com and use the promo code BoxHard for 20% off plus free shipping. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.